continuing our discussion on this topic of Vandanam. Vandanam, as we have been discussing, it is sincere uttering of prayers from the heart. And we've been discussing for a few weeks now, and it's a very beautiful, deep topic. So we will just keep churning this topic because this island of the heart, it's a very beautiful place. And we're just covering the 9 islands, and we are on the 4th one. So the 4th island of the heart. So today we want to cover 4 kinds of Vandanam. 4 different types of Vandanam. And how they are practiced, what is the mood, and who is eligible to do Vandanam? Because we can choose to do Vandanam, or we can be forced to pray. Material energy will make life for us in such a way that we will be forced to pray, but it is always nice to choose to do something instead of being forced to do it. So, as we discuss this Vandanam, so this Vandanam is a declaration of devotion or love from the heart. So this is another one sentence for what is Vandanam. So 4 kinds. First, in Sanskrit, is called Abhivadana. Okay, thank you, Keshavi. Oh, Shanaz just mentioned. Okay, no problems. So the first one is called Abhivadana, which means respectful greetings. In America, when we see each other, we say hello, good morning, or whatever. We have different ways to greet one another. This Abhivadana, it's a little bit deeper. It's more heartfelt. It's coming from a place of sincerity. It's coming from a place where it's more serene and peaceful. So it's not just a formality. Rather, it is something that is actual, it's truth, it's part of who you are. So, respectful greetings, when it's, I can't see anyone. Okay. Respectful greetings generally are offered to 4 different groups of people, right? Generally, it's offered to everyone, but in particular, it's divided into 4 categories. So first, I want to express that the most important thing is greetings and showing respects to our forefathers and our ancestors and people who have contributed to our being on this planet. You know, every country has forefathers of the nation. And even in our individual life, in our families, you'll notice there are so many people who were a big part of who we are today and their life and their legacy. So Abhivadanam is generally done with 2 hands like this to the heart. It always shows that you're unarmed. If you come to Vrindavan with me, you'll notice the monkeys, when you keep your fists clenched or your hands in your pocket or in your bag, they think that there's something that you have to hide. So they show their teeth like, you know, you're hiding something. And they try to scare you like you're hiding something from me. And if you just walk around with open palms or with folded hands, the monkeys, they leave you alone. They're very susceptible to hypocrisy and duplicity. Somehow, very interesting creatures in Vrindavan, I've noticed. So Abhivadana is this gestures that we use to show respect to elders and to forefathers, to everyone that we meet. We can simply greet them with folded hands. And this also is called pranam asana. The word pra means to move forward. So when you bend forward, it's called pranamasana. That means you're ready to greet someone. You'll notice in India there is a culture when the elders come into the room, all the young people, they all stand up. Not because they're afraid or anything, it's just part of this culture of Vandanam, that we just stand up and we just do this. We just show that we are leaning forward. That's what pranam means. So, first one is Vandanam, Abhivadanam, and the second one is called Panchanga Asana. Panchanga Asana means we use 5 limbs of our body, because Vandanam comprises of body, mind, and words. Vandanam cannot just be gestures. It is not a superficial act. So it requires your body, mind, and your words. So therefore, in this Panchanga Asana, which is the second point that I'm discussing, Panchanga means 5 limbs. So what are we using? We're using our hands, our knees, our feet, and our forehead touches the ground. So this is another way that we practically practice Vandanam, because we've been discussing a lot of theories. So now I'm giving some practical steps. The first one is this. The second one, Nita, do you have a picture you can show us? He's going to share a picture for us. That one, yes. Can you show that one? Yes, that one. This is not good. Yes. You see how his knees and his head and his arms. This is the asana. This is the yoga pose for practicing the second point of Vandanam, practically doing it. This is called Panchanga Asana. You'll notice the head is touching the earth, and your hands are also touching earth, so you're very grounded. Your knees are touching the ground, and your feet, your ankles are also touching the ground. So it just shows that you're ready to show respect. Okay, let's go back to the main screen. So that is called Panchanga Asana. How to practically practice Vandanam every day. When you want to offer in this position, we normally use, because this is the body and the mind, we need to be in a mood of humility and sincerity. So that is the mood that we do this Vandanam with. And we use the mouth to chant prayers. And I will teach you one prayer today to Mother Earth, because she's going through a lot right now in the world. And I will teach you these special prayers that you can pray to her every day. So this is the pose that we use. Okay? And then The third one is called Shashtanga Asana. If you don't mind, Nitai, to share them. This is where you use 6 limbs. You can use a picture. He is looking for the Shashtanga. Yeah, sure. You can also keep your butt down if you like. It's not the perfect one, but it's okay. The point is to have your your uh, your toes touching the ground, your knees, your chest, and your palms. So basically, is 8 limbs. What you're using is your feet, your ankles, your hands, your chest, and your forehead. This is not the right picture, but it's okay. It was another picture you could have used. So this is called, you can use this asana. This shows, you can go back to the main screen. And this is the third practical way of practicing Vandanam. When you wake up in the morning, if you're sleeping on your side or on your back, you can just turn around and do this full Shashtanga Pranam asana. This is a yoga pose. And when you're in this pose, you'll naturally start to have this mood of humility and sincerity. And you'll also learn some mantras that you can chant to offer gratitude, because body, mind, and words. And then we have the fourth one, which is called Samyoga. Samyoga, you'll notice, is very common in the West. When someone pulls a gun, you just raise both hands. Have anyone seen how it is? If someone comes to aggressively come at you, if you just raise both hands and they leave you alone. This is absolute surrender pose. Most times in our lives, we like to hold on to things. And so when you take your hands away from your body and your hands are empty and you raise both hands, this is called Samyoga. And when people say, I give up, what do? They do this. That means I surrender. So these are the 4 practical ways of practicing Vandanam. And it's important to have the right mood in practicing Vandanam, because it has to be something that comes from the heart. It's not just because I need something from someone, I fold my hands and I greet them, or I pay respects to them. It is a very common practice that in some cultures they have. Before they do deals, if they want to bribe you, they just do certain Vandanam poses, and people are like, oh, they're so sweet. And then it's used almost as a way to misuse it for an ulterior motive. But in this Vandanam, there is no motive other than just pure offering of gratitude and accepting the divine within each and every living entity. So we're going to understand that this word that we commonly use, namaha, you heard namaste? The word namaste and namaha is the same thing. Ma means mine or false ego. Na means not. So not my false ego. So when we say namaste to someone, it's not about you. So, and when we eliminate our ego out of the equation, then we can actually practice namaste. So when we say namaste to someone, that's what it means. It is not just some words and some hand gestures. What we're actually saying is that I'm free from my false ego and I submit to the divine within you. Now, someone say, can I show respect to someone who's unkind? Their actions with the body may be unkind, but the divine within that body that is residing there, it's still divine. The divine is not contaminated, it's just covered. Just because a person cannot see it does not mean that it does not exist. Just like when there is a rain or storm coming, and then before that, there's this beautiful dark clouds that cover the sun. Just because the clouds are covering the sun, it does not mean that the sun does not exist. The sun continues to shine. It is just temporarily covered by the clouds. So similarly, the divine within each and every person exists. And when we say namaste, we are seeing the divine within that person. And that is truly possible when we keep in mind that namaham or namaste, nama means you're free from false ego. Ma is described in the Puranas, in the Yoga text, as the false ego, the false identity. And na is not. So therefore, we have to keep that in mind. Once we have this understanding of what namaste means, and our mind is in that space of namaste, then whoever you say namaste to, you'll be able to touch their hearts. You can only touch their hearts when we are devoid of false ego. When we can genuinely offer respect to the divine within each and every living being. So this is why this namaste, to understand, is quite vital. So I mentioned about the 4 kinds of people that we should, elders, that we should always show respect to in this first Abhivadana, in the first category. So in the world nowadays, respect is primarily for someone who has more money than you in our society. And they have a chart deciding who is to be respected. Generally, you'll find people who are celebrities, sports athletes, people who have money. But in yoga, we understand there's 4 people who genuinely deserve our respect. Is Abhivadana. First one is someone who has more knowledge than you. Because knowledge is Saraswati, goddess personified, has taken interest in that person. And this person is worshiping this beautiful goddess of knowledge. That means that they're able to shine brighter light into this universe, that they can brighten our lives as well. So anyone who has more knowledge than us, and in this case, because we don't know who has how much knowledge, we always assume that everyone knows more than us. So that means we show respect to all beings, because everyone has something that we do not know that we can learn from. And the day we think that we have the answers, the day we stop asking questions to seek further knowledge, we will realize that we will stop growing. So we should continuously be seeking knowledge from every possible source there is. And that means that we show respect to each and every possible person and possible being, because there may be something that we can learn from them. So this is the first one, knowledge. And then age. Now we have no idea who is how old. Why? Because we're eternal beings. In this life, I may be, this body may be a little older than Connie, say, for example. Right? But we are eternal, so we do not know anyone's age. So if someone is older than us, we're always doing abhivadanam, offering greetings. And that means each and every person is entitled to be greeted with abhivadanam. And I heard in America it's very impolite to ask people's age. So I learned that you shouldn't ask their age because people get very offended. But it's such a beautiful thing that the yoga teaches us that we should respect. And the third one is wealth. Wealth means, you'll be surprised that people who have wealth, the genuine wealthy people, are the people who have wealth and they give more than they have. That is real wealth. People who just make money and hold on to themselves and then they leave it all behind because they cannot take it with them. That is not wealth. But regardless, we are always showing respect to anyone and everyone that has some wealth. And the real understanding is that everyone is wealthy. Some realize it and some don't. Because in our heart, we all come from the divine, and the divine is complete, full of abundance. So therefore, we are all wealthy, wealthy, wealthy people. We just have not been able to tap into the real essence of our hearts to find that beautiful wealth that we all have and carry. And so therefore, what do? We show respect to everyone who is wealthy. And who is wealthy? Everyone. So we show respect to all living beings because everyone has wealth. And they may not realize that they have wealth, but the minute we fold our hands and do abhivadanam, then they will realize how much they're valued. Can you imagine someone just comes up to you and shows you respect? You naturally feel good and you feel loved and you feel that beautiful love within the heart. Why? Because that wealth is there already. You just forgot that it was there. And someone did abhivadanam and made you realize that you are a very beautiful soul and the divine resides within you. So that is the third one. So we covered knowledge, age, and wealth. And then we also cover position. Position, you'll notice there is many people who have various different positions in society. And they should be respected. And for that matter, each and every one of us in this world have a very unique position in this world. There is no two Narayanis, there's only one Narayana. There's only one Dev in the world. There's no two Devs. There's only one Kani in the world. So we have a very unique position in this world. And we have unique abilities to change and contribute to this world. And this is why we show respect to all beings, because they have a position in this world. And they're wealthy, and they're elderly, and they're knowledgeable. So these are the four reasons explained in the yoga text as to why we should respect all beings in this world. So this is Abhivadanam, and or sorry, it's working. Can you all hear me? I bumped into the mic. Okay. So now, because we're going to learn a prayer to Mother Earth, how do we pray? Right? So prayer is done in 4 categories. I'm giving you a lot of categories. Sorry about that. Hope it's not too confusing. So the 4 categories are Nama, Rupa, Guna, and Leela in Sanskrit. Nama means name, Rupa means form, Guna means qualities, and Leela means pastimes. So we are in this world, and we have this unique opportunity to do Vandanam every single day. How do we do Vandanam? First is name. The divine has names, hundreds and thousands and unlimited numbers of names. And whatever you want to name the divine as, you can name it. The Shastras, the yoga texts, are giving us, for example, in the Bhakti tradition, there is 108 names of the divine, primarily, right? Krishna, Govinda, and Keshava, Murari, Madhusudana, and in this way, I don't want to carry on and on, but there is 108 names that is given in Sanskrit, but it is explained. The divine has unlimited numbers of names. Say, for example, if Ingrid is praying, please remove the suffering in my mind, then that is the name of the divine, one who removes the suffering of the mind. Someone can say, I'm having difficulty controlling my senses. Please, divine, oh divine, help me control my senses. So that name becomes Rishikesh. Someone who can help you to subdue the senses. So the divine is defined by qualities. And so therefore, first one is Nama. You can give divine different names, or you can look up those beautiful names, or I can send them to you. And you can call out those names. And that is what we do in the kirtan. Like yesterday, I know that Connie, did you go to the kirtan in New York with Krishnadas? You didn't get a chance. I know Keshavi went, and Claudia was going to go, and many of you went to New York for the beautiful kirtan with Krishnadas. And we had an incredible kirtan here in Atlanta. It's a beautiful downtown auditorium where Janavi Harrison, and there was about 900 or so people, filled up the whole auditorium with ecstatic names of the divine. chanting Govinda, Krishna Keshava, and beautiful names. It was just the whole auditorium became a very vibrant, spiritually charged, vibrant space because these names of the divine were being called out. And this is what kirtan is. So this is the first way to address the divine and offer Vandanam. First is Nama, and the second is Rupa. Rupa means form. To each and every one of us, the divine has different forms. Some worship the trees as the form of the divine. Some will worship him as this beautiful young blue boy with a peacock feather on his head. So the divine will come in different forms to you. So we talk about those beautiful forms. Some of you will look at beautiful flowers and you'll appreciate the divine within the flowers. Everywhere you go, all you will see is divine. So this is what happens when our consciousness becomes so evolved that we see nothing but divine in everything and in everyone. There's a very beautiful yoga text that explains. He says, "My dear Lord, I cannot live without you because wherever I turn, I see you. I turn back, you're there. I look side, you're there. I look in the front, you're there." So this is what spiritual consciousness means. This is what bhakti means. That we're able to see the divine in everything and in everywhere. So that is called rupa. And guna means qualities. You'd be surprised when you are fully aware, where your awareness is heightened. You're able to see the beautiful qualities of divine in everything and in every ability in men, ability in humanity. This is all coming from divine. And you're able to see the divine in the qualities. Because all beings' qualities are a reflection of the divine qualities. So therefore, that's the third one. And then Leela. Leela means pastimes. Pastimes is loosely translated, but what it means is when the divine chooses to do things on its own accord without being bound by time, place, and circumstances. It can do whatever it wants. And that is what Leela means. To understand that the divine is infinite and it has the power to do whatever it wants. And however it wants, and it will impact us individually and globally. And the divine has the full power and potency by its own will to do anything and everything he or she pleases. I want to tell you a small story. I had two stories in mind, but I think I have time for one story. This is a story of two saints. One saint happens to be a cobbler. Does everyone know what a cobbler is? Cobbler is, yes, Sean knows because I think it's a British word. They sew the shoes, they make shoes. But he was such a devotee. He was such an exalted in his consciousness, even though he was doing such a menial work in the community, but his heart was just so advanced, his consciousness was so advanced. And then another was an intellectual person who was very rational, and he was considered a Brahmana. Brahmana means someone who is very intellectual, very educated, very rational. And he was also very devoted and surrendered to the divine. So they were going about their business, and this great sage who was traveling from one planet to another. They have the sages, they have interplanetary visas. They can travel with the speed of mind from one planet to another. We always talk about teleporting, but this used to be something that the sages used to do. They didn't have airplanes. They would just close their eyes and they would be in Connecticut, and next second they will be in Belgium, next second they will be in India. They can just travel with the speed of the mind. But this sage, Narada, is this great sage, and he had the ability to go from one planet to another in the same body. We will have difficulty traveling to another planet with the same body because there's different pressures of those planets. The composition of the bodies are a little different. But this sage was traveling and he saw these two personalities, the cobbler and the Brahmana. So he asked him, and the cobbler noticed the sage, so the sage stopped him. He asked the sage, he said, "Where are you going, oh sage Narada?" He said, "I'm going to go meet the divine. I'm going to go meet," for him, divine was Krishna. He said, "I'm going to go meet Krishna." And he said, "Yes, I'm so happy you're going there. Please, when you see him, please, I would like to know what he is doing. I'm just so curious. What is Krishna doing in the spiritual world?" So the same was repeated by the Brahmana. So Narada went to the spiritual world and he came back. On his way back, he met the Brahmana. And the Brahman was so excited. He says, "Narada, you're back so quick. Please tell me, what is my Lord? What is Krishna doing in the spiritual world?" And Narada explained that your Lord was putting an elephant through the eye of a needle. And then the Brahmana started laughing. "Ha ha ha, you're so funny. How is that possible? How can you put an elephant through the eye of a needle? It's not possible." And Narada smiled and he left. And he went to meet this cobbler, who was just a simple person on the side of the street, a simple, humble person. When he saw Narada, he immediately did Vandanam, Shashtanga Pranam. He did a full Pranam to Narada. And Narada was so happy to see him. And he was so excited to see Narada. He says, "My dear Narada, O sage, please tell me, what is the divine? What is my Lord? What is Krishna doing in the spiritual world?" He said, "Well, what he told me to tell you, what he was doing was he was putting an elephant through the eye of a needle." And this cobbler was just so ecstatic. He went into spiritual ecstasy. He started dancing and dancing and dancing and chanting the glories of the divine. And Narada was thinking, what a person. He actually believes in the true powers of the divine, that divine can do anything. To put an elephant through the eye of a needle, yes, anything is possible. So just thinking and hearing this incredible story of what the divine was doing, he went into spiritual ecstasy. So this is what happens when we are sincerely doing Vandanam. When we are sincerely offering prayers from the heart. Because anything is possible, and this is what Leela means. Leela means pastimes. The divine is capable of doing anything and everything, whenever and however it wishes. So we have a few more minutes. I want to tell you one more story from the Puranas. These are all yoga stories. I'm feeling like I'm in the mood today. So I want to tell you one more story. This is a story of Shiva. Any of you know Shiva? Heard of Shiva? Please raise your hand if you heard of Shiva. Okay, great. So Shiva is this great personality. He lives in the mountains. He is called Digambar. That means his clothing are the 10 directions. He wears the 10 directions as his clothes. He lives in a cave. He doesn't have a home. But he is the happiest person ever. He's eternally happy. So, what happens? His wife is Sati, and her father is this great king or Prajapati, progenitor. He was doing this massive fire ceremony. And in that massive fire ceremony, everybody was invited to come and join. But Shiva was not invited. Because Shiva doesn't wear any clothes. He's free of he's completely in his own beautiful world. One day I'll tell you more stories about Shiva, but he's such an incredible personality. Everybody loves him. So he was not invited. But his wife, she really wanted to go. She wanted to go see her father and participate in this incredible fire ceremony where people from all over the different planets, different leaders of the different planets, they all showed up for this ceremony, this big, huge, universal, interplanetary fire ceremony. And she wanted to go be there with her father. And so she appealed to Shiva, my dear husband, please, can we go to this ceremony? And Shiva was still in meditation. And she kept pleading with him. You know that my father just loves me the most. I'm the most adorable child of my father. Can you please take me? Can we please go? So she kept offering prayers to Shiva so that Shiva would be convinced to go. But Shiva was in deep meditation. And Shiva, he has the power to know the past, present, and future. He has these incredible mystical powers. So he knew that her father did not like him very much because he doesn't have anything, yet he has everything. He gives benedictions to everybody for everything that they want, yet he has no material attachments whatsoever. So Lord Shiva was completely bewildered what to do. My wife really wants to go, and it is my duty as a husband to go with her wherever she goes. But he does not want me there. And if I go there, he will be more aggravated. And he will say many hurtful things. Sometimes you'll notice father-in-laws and mother-in-laws that have very unique relationships in the families. And there was their own individual unique relationship. So Shiva said, my dear Sati, I really want you to go because you have this desire to go. and I do not want to stop you. But I do not feel that I should go to this place. It's very important point that Shiva is mentioning, because if someone is not welcome and invited to a place, it is not a good place to be in, because you may get offended. They may not be able to, you may not be able to hold your value. So he said, since you're his child, so you go ahead, sit on this bull. Lord Shiva rides on a bull. He is the first bull rider, not in America. Is it called rodeo? Rodeo? What is it called? Rodeo. Radio. How do you say it?
Rodeo.
Rodeo. Thank you. I'm sorry, my English is my fourth language. So I need some help, some teachers sometime. Thank you, Narayani Devi. So Lord Shiva was the first rodeo rider in the history of creation. He was the first one. So his bull name is Nandi. And so he said, okay, Sati, you can go. I'll make sure Nandi rides you. And if anything happens, Nandi, your rider, will come and tell me if anything goes wrong. And interestingly, when she goes there, her father is doing the ceremony, and her father starts insulting Shiva and saying very unkind things. And Sati, as the most chaste wife of Shiva, she could not handle the insult to her husband. So she just kept saying, Dad, please stop, and he wouldn't stop. So what did she do? She just could not tolerate, so she just jumped into the fire. And she basically gave up her life. And when Nandi ran back and told Shiva what happened, Shiva got very furious. Shiva came back with Nandi. He was, already having this dance of destruction in his mind. So as soon as he saw his wife, body lifeless, he picked her body and put it on his shoulder. And he saw the cause of that was her father. So he immediately took his trident and he chopped his head off. This is a long story, but I'm cutting it short for you. He says, you don't do this. You just, In this case, now, as a king, Lord Shiva should have first shown him some respect. Lord Shiva is the most honorable, respectable person. Why did he break this code of conduct of not showing respect to him, to her father? And the interesting thing, the sages are explaining this story, they're explaining that actually Lord Shiva, when he saw his father-in-law, he saw the divine within the father-in-law. Because Lord Shiva sees the divine in all beings. Because that's who Lord Shiva is. But the body that his father-in-law was having was covering the divine. So therefore, Lord Shiva just took his trident and chopped his head off. So there was still Avivadanam. Even he was so angry and so upset with the fact that Sati had to take her life because of his insults. See, even in that situation, he is still maintaining his Avivadanam, his Vandanam. And then what does he do? Because the fire ceremony has to be completed, he went out. Thank you, Lakshmi. He went out and he found a goat because, somehow the ceremony has to go on. So whoever was the first species that you could find should bring the head of that species. And Lord Shiva put it on his head. And so he could continue the ceremony. So Lord Shiva's father-in-law ended up with a goat head. So this is showing you how, even in the worst of worst situations, Lord Shiva is still doing Vandanam. He genuinely loved his father-in-law from the heart. But father-in-law, because of his material conditioning, his position, he got a little proud. You know, I'm so strong, I'm so handsome, I'm this, I'm that. So Lord Shiva just took that out of the equation and just put a nice goat head on him, and then he was able to finish the ceremony. So in this way, this principle of Vandanam, I know I went on a little bit on a story detour, but this is a beautiful story. It's showing that this Vandanam, that sincerely seeing the divine in all beings, is extremely important. Even in the worst of worst situations. So thank you all very much for joining us. We may have time for one question. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Yes, Connie. Did you want to ask something? Okay. So thank you all very. Yes, Sean, please share with us.
Is there a methodology or inspiration to seeing godliness in each and every one? Yeah, how do you manifest that? How are you able to see the godliness? You know, if I look at you, and how do I get to see that with each and every one? You know?
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful question. See, this body has a resident, and that is you. Each one of us, we are residing in this body. Yoga explains. This body is simply a costume that we are temporarily beneficiary of, and we get to use it to experience this world. And for those of us who want to use this body, we can transcend this material world because our mind and intelligence is so advanced. We have the ability, and this body is such a beautiful machine. So when we look at the complexity of things, it's easy to see that there is a higher intelligence involved in all these incredible mechanisms. When we see a car on the street, we know that there is a company, and within this company, there are so many people who are manufacturing this. And on top of that, there is a person who is the CEO of the company. So there is a person behind all of the creation. So similarly, when we see everything in this world, yoga explains that it is not simply a chance. We say chance because we don't know how it happened. When we don't know how things happen, then we call it a chance. But once we are able to understand how things happen, then it becomes not a chance, because there is a higher intelligence that is at play, that is making everything so nicely beautiful and accommodating for our existence on this planet. Science cannot just theoretically explain how all these hundreds and millions of gallons of water are being carried by the wind in the clouds, because gravitational force will tell you that it has to drop. It's so much weight. But the divine is so kind that something so heavy is floating in the sky, and wherever is needed, it is rightfully showering in all those places for things to grow, for life to grow, and for people to sustain. So in this way, everything we see, we're able to see the divine. So there's many ways to look at this. One way is to always keep meditating that everything that's happening, trying to find out Why is it happening? Who is behind it all? And you cannot credit science for life, because only life comes from life. Life cannot be created in a lab, because science deals with matter. And bhakti or spirituality deals with what really matters, which is raising of the consciousness to be able to see the divine in everything. So it's a very deep question that you ask, Sean, but I would say to keep it really short and so that I don't take too much of your time and bore you all, is to see that there is a higher power behind everything we do, everything we see, everything we experience. And just even acknowledging that will naturally bring us to the space of gratitude. You know, like I was going to share this mantra with you all before we ended, was this mantra for Mother Earth. People forget how mothers are so important. And it's simple. Mother becomes the vessel of life for more life. And mother's body becomes the food for the child, naturally happening. This incredible creation of the divine that the baby just naturally latches onto the mother, and the mother's body, out of so much love and affection that is provided by the divine through the mother, this baby is nourished. So similarly, Mother Earth is providing us with so much vital resources for our survival. Yet, when was the last time we said, Mother Earth, thank you so much? So in our yoga, I will chant this mantra, and I hope you also get into this mode of learning some simple Sanskrit mantras or prayers. The mantra is Samudra Vasane Devi Parvata Sthana Mandite Vishnu Patni Namastubhyam Pada Sparsham Kshamasvame. And this is how we're just showing to Mother Earth. This mantra means the oceans are your garments. Mountains are your chest, O wife of Vishnu, and the earth is your body. So Mother Earth, please give us your blessings that I'm about to set my feet on your head and walk on you. This is what we do every day. Just a little humble prayer of gratitude. Because we stomp on her, we use her, we exploit her, we do everything on her. We live off of her. Without her, we have no life. Yet, there is very little acknowledgement. So when we use these prayers with her mouth, we chant these prayers. Then what happens? We are able to imbibe this mood of gratitude. And when we live a life of gratitude, it is a life of happiness. So thank you all so much. So grateful to be with all of you.